Ever heard the whispers about banned American cars? Forget the rumors. Some of these machines really existed. They were too fast, too wild, or too ahead of their time for the world to handle. Detroit once dreamed up cars that scared their own executives, defied government rules, or pushed technology so far it felt dangerous. These aren't just vehicles, they're lost legends of American ingenuity, buried secrets the companies wanted you to forget. Today, we're dusting off those secrets. We'll take you back to a time when automakers weren't afraid to think big, even if it meant getting burned. Join us as we uncover 12 American cars you probably never saw on the road, each with a story of ambition, fear, and what happens when genius meets a hard no in the boardroom. Buckle up. It's going to be one heck of a ride through automotive history. Number 12, the Golden Ghost, 1970. Chrysler 300 Hearst Convertible. Picture this, a full-size luxury cruiser transformed into a tire-melting monster. That was the 1970 Chrysler 300 Hearst Convertible, a car so bold it feels more like myth than metal. Only one was ever built, a gleaming white and gold convertible packing Chrysler's high-output 440 cubic inch V8, good for a massive 375 horsepower and a thunderous 480 pound-foot torque. It wore Hearst's signature stripes and emblems like a crown, ready to steal the spotlight at auto shows and hint at a planned limited production run. But Chrysler's execs took one look at this 5,000-pound missile with racing stripes and flinched. Rising insurance rates, looming emissions rules, and a growing public backlash against excess made it too hot to handle. So, they quietly locked it away, never advertising or offering it for sale. For decades, many doubted it even existed. When it finally resurfaced, restored and gleaming, it wasn't just a car. It was a time capsule, a roaring monument to an era when Detroit still dared to be outrageous. A one-of-a-kind ghost, proving that sometimes the boldest dreams are the first to be buried. Number 11, the sedan that could have shamed. BMW, 1990 Chevrolet Lumina. Z34 DOHC FAM 8 prototype. Now, imagine your typical family sedan, but engineered to outrun the Germans. That was the vision behind the 1990 Chevrolet Lumina Z34 DOHCV 8 prototype. Chevy's engineers had big dreams. Take the humble Lumina and drop in a 4.2-liter dual overhead cam. V8 pumping out nearly 280 horsepower. It wasn't just about raw power, it was refined with smooth, high-revving character meant to take on BMW 3 Series sedans of the day. The chassis was beefed up, the suspension tuned, even the aerodynamics were tweaked for stability at speed. But then, reality set in. Emissions regulations were tightening, requiring expensive redesigns. Worse yet, GM's executives feared this wolf in sheep's clothing would steal buyers from the Camaro and even the Corvette. Internally, they didn't want a front-wheel drive family car making their performance icons look slow. So, they pulled the plug. The prototype was tucked away, quietly forgotten. Only rumors and a few blurry photos remain. It's a reminder that, in Detroit, boardroom politics can kill even the most promising ideas. And that sometimes, the cars we never got tell us more about the industry than the ones we did. Number 10, the Dragstrip Outlaw, 1965. Mercury Comet AFX Cyclone 427 SOHC. Let's step into the golden age of drag racing when Detroit wasn't afraid to break the rules. Enter the 1965 Mercury Comet AFX Cyclone 427 SOHC, a factory-built weapon so fierce it was banned almost immediately. Only 11 were ever produced, each hand-built to dominate the quarter mile. At its heart was Ford's legendary 427 Cammer 5.8, a dual overhead cam marvel borrowed from European racing technology. It churned out over 600 horsepower, an insane figure in the mid-1960s. Lightweight, stripped of all frills, and packed with racing hardware, the Cyclone was designed to do one thing: win. But its success was its downfall. The NHRA, drag racing's governing body, took one look and said, too much. The Cyclone's exotic engine and radical setup violated the spirit of competition. It was banned before it could establish a legacy on the strip. No showroom sales, no flashy ads. Just whispers in the racing world about a machine so advanced, so wild, it couldn't be allowed to play. Today's surviving examples are mythical, representing an era when American car makers were willing to risk everything for speed, even if it meant being told to sit down. Number 9, the SixWheeled Beast, 1998 Dodge Ram T-Rex 6x6. Concept: think pickups are just for hauling lumber? Think again. The 1998 Dodge Ram T-Rex 6x6 concept was Detroit saying, "Hold my coffee," and building a monster no one asked for, but everyone talked about. This wasn't just a bigger Ram. It featured 6 driven wheels, powered by an 8.0-liter V10 belting out nearly 500 horsepower. With 3 solid axles and an advanced air suspension system, it could raise or lower itself on the fly. It was part off-road war machine, part science experiment, and all attitude. Dodge wanted to prove they could make the ultimate 4x4, and then add 2 more wheels for good measure. It looked like a military transport crossed with a Baja racer, with massive off-road tires and flared fenders that made ordinary trucks cower. But here's the catch: it was too big, too heavy, and too complex for real roads. Safety testing revealed handling quirks at speed, while maneuvering it in city traffic was laughable. Regulators and executives wisely shut it down before anyone could try parking one at the grocery store. Today, only a handful survive. Collector's items that remind us Detroit was once brave enough, or crazy enough, to dream 6 wheels at a time. Number 8, the convertible that was too wild. 1973. Pontiac Firebird SD455. Prototype: picture a classic Pontiac Firebird, but drop the top and bolt in one of the most ferocious V8s ever built. That was the plan for the 1973 Firebird SD455 convertible prototype, a machine that could have been the ultimate open-air muscle car. Under the hood sat the Super Duty 455 cubic inch V8, hand-built for brutal strength with forged internals and race-inspired engineering. It cranked out nearly 300 net horsepower and over 400 pound-feet of torque at a time when most muscle cars were getting choked by new emissions rules. But there was a problem. Convertibles lacked the rigid roof structure that coupes rely on for stiffness. When Pontiac's engineers tested it, the chassis flexed dangerously under all that torque. Cornering became unpredictable, with scary oversteer that even seasoned drivers struggled to tame. Meanwhile, insurance premiums were soaring, emissions standards tightening, and public opinion was turning against raw power. Faced with cost, safety, and liability concerns, Pontiac pulled the plug, killing the project before it could even hit the showroom. Today, the SD455 convertible is an almost mythical what-if story, a dream machine that never got the chance to rumble down Main Street with the wind in its hair. Number 7, the street-legal race car, 1971 Chevrolet Corvette ZR2. Imagine owning a factory-built race car that you could actually drive on the street. That was the promise of the 1971 Chevrolet Corvette ZR2. And Chevy wasn't kidding around. At its heart was the fearsome LS 6454 cubic inch big block V8, officially rated at 425 horsepower, but rumored to push closer to 450. It delivered thunderous torque and a raw, unfiltered driving experience. Mated to the legendary M22 Rock Crusher 4-speed manual, it was built to take punishment and dish it right back out. But this wasn't just about power. The ZR2 was stripped of creature comforts to save weight. No power windows, no fancy sound system. It had reinforced suspension, heavy-duty brakes, and a beefed-up aluminum radiator to survive hard track use. It was loud, stiff, and demanding, built for drivers who wanted nothing less than pure speed. Chevy built only 12 of these beasts before killing the program. The cost was high, the market was small, and execs worried about warranty nightmares. Today, the ZR2 is one of the most coveted Corvettes ever, a unicorn from a time when Detroit still dared to put race cars in customer garages. Number 6. The Mustang that was too early. 1983. Ford Mustang ERS Turbo Prototype. Let's rewind to the early 80s, a time when Ford wanted to prove it could be cutting edge. Enter the 1983 Mustang RS Turbo Prototype, a car that aimed to trade V8 grunt for modern turbocharged muscle. Under the hood sat a 2.3-liter turbocharged four-cylinder designed for serious boost, more than even the later Mustang SVO would dare. On paper, it was brilliant, lightweight, efficient, and capable of embarrassing bigger engines with a quick spool of power. Ford wanted a Mustang that could match European hot hatches and Japanese turbo coupes at their own game. But the real world wasn't ready. American fuel quality in the 1980s was poor, with low-octane ratings that couldn't handle the aggressive boost without causing destructive engine knock. At the time, ECU technology and knock sensors were primitive. Testing revealed persistent detonation issues that threatened to blow the engine apart if pushed hard. Rather than risk reliability disasters and angry customers, Ford quietly shelved the RS Turbo project. But they didn't forget it. Lessons learned here directly shaped the 1984 Mustang SVO, a more refined, reliable turbo Mustang. The RS Turbo remains a lost chapter, a brilliant idea a few years too early for its time. Number 5. The sleeper that scared. GM 1990 Oldsmobile Achieva SCXW41. At first glance, the 1990 Oldsmobile Achieva SCXW41 looked like any other sensible front-wheel drive family sedan. But under that plain exterior beat the heart of a true performance machine. It packed a 2.3-liter quad, 4-engine producing 190 horsepower, impressive for its day, and screamed all the way to 7,400 RPM. It came with sport-tuned suspension, bigger brakes, and a limited slip differential. This wasn't just a commuter, it was a hidden sports car for those in the know. But here's the real secret. Engineers didn't stop there. Behind closed doors, they built turbocharged prototypes with well over 300 horsepower, numbers that could challenge Camaros and even Corvettes of the time. It wasn't just quick, it was shockingly fast for a front driver. That terrified GM brass. They feared a hot rod Oldsmobile would steal sales from their prized V8 rear-drive models and confuse their carefully guarded brand hierarchy. So they cut its wings, shelving the high-output variants and releasing only the milder version to showrooms. Today, the Achieva SCXW41 remains a true sleeper, a testament to GM's internal battles. A car built to surprise, then ordered to behave. For collectors, it's a rare, under-the-radar piece of vivid 1990s American performance history. Number 4. The street-legal Dragster, 1962. Dodge Polara, Max Wedge, Ram Charger 413. Picture a family sedan that was secretly a factory-built drag racer. That's the 1962 Dodge Polara, Max Wedge Ram Charger 413. A car that turned polite suburbia into a starting line. Under its unassuming sheet metal sat the legendary 413 cubic inch Max Wedge Fathviv 8, topped with massive cross-ram intake manifolds that forced air and fuel into the engine like a supercharger. Official ratings boasted over 420 horsepower, but insiders whispered it made even more. This wasn't a car for casual cruising. Its rough idle and violent throttle response demanded a skilled, fearless driver. The clutch was heavy, the suspension stiff, and the brakes were barely enough to rein it in. At stoplights, it threatened to stall or launch into traffic if you weren't careful. Insurance companies and regulators quickly realized these were barely tamed race cars sold to the public. As concerns over safety, emissions, and soaring premiums grew, the Max Wedge package was killed off. Only about 150 were ever made, making surviving examples incredibly rare today. For collectors, the Polara Max Wedge is the ultimate Mopar holy grail, a raw, unfiltered testament to an era when Detroit dared to sell you a quarter-mile monster disguised as a family car. Number 3. The SUV that could have eaten Corvettes, 1992. GMC Typhoon Vefi 8AWD prototype. Most people remember the GMC Typhoon as the early 90s SUV that embarrassed sports cars with its turbocharged V6 and all-wheel drive. But behind the scenes, GM engineers had an even wilder idea. Drop in a Corvette-derived V8 and see just how far they could push it. The prototype boasted a 5.7-liter small-block V8, making over 300 horsepower, paired with a carefully tuned AWD system to put all that muscle to the pavement. Suspension upgrades and chassis tweaks helped this high-riding beast corner like a much smaller car. Imagine a boxy SUV launching off the line with the ferocity of a muscle car, all while carrying groceries or 4 friends in comfort. But GM's marketing execs got cold feet. A V8 Typhoon threatened to steal thunder and sales from the Camaro and Corvette, which were supposed to be GM's performance flagships. How could they explain an SUV outrunning their sacred sports cars? So they shelved it, quietly dismantling the prototypes and burying the project in archives. Today, the V8 AWD Typhoon exists as a legend whispered among collectors, proof that Detroit once considered making an SUV so fast, it would have needed its own warning label. Number 2, the Compact Monster, 1974, AMC Hornet 401 XR. Imagine taking a modest, no-nonsense compact car and stuffing it with a big block V8 meant for full-size muscle machines. That was AMC's wild idea with the 1974 Hornet 401 XR, a car that was either brilliantly rebellious or downright reckless. Under its unassuming sheet, metal lurked AMC's 401 cubic inch V8, a torque-heavy powerhouse delivering performance on par with Camaros and Mustangs of the era. But the Hornet's lightweight chassis wasn't designed to handle such fury. Early tests revealed violent wheel spin, twitchy handling, and sudden oversteer that made it feel like a barely controlled rocket on the street. Engineers scrambled to strengthen the suspension and add bracing, but the fixes added weight without solving the core problem. Meanwhile, the early 70s brought stricter emissions standards, soaring insurance rates, and rising concerns about liability lawsuits from selling such an unpredictable beast. AMC's management decided it was too risky to unleash on the public. The project was quietly canceled, with only a few prototypes surviving as secret legends. Today, the Hornet 401 XR is a tantalizing what-if, a compact car that dreamed of being the ultimate muscle machine, but was simply too wild for its time. Number 1. The Band Rally. Rocket 1986 Ford RS 200 Evolution. Finally, let's talk about a car so extreme, it wasn't just banned from showrooms, it was banned from its entire sport. Meet the 1986 Ford RS 200 Evolution, a purpose-built Group B rally monster with a reputation as fearsome as its performance. This wasn't some street car with stickers. It was engineered from the ground up with a lightweight mid-engine layout, advanced all-wheel drive, and a turbocharged 1.8-liter engine, pushing over 600 horsepower in race trim. It could tear through mountain passes and forest stages with blinding speed and razor-sharp agility. A handful were imported to the US for testing and demonstration, tantalizing American enthusiasts with a glimpse of Europe's rally arms race. But tragedy struck Group B. Fatal crashes involving drivers and spectators forced the FIA to shut the whole category down. Suddenly, these cars weren't just fast, they were forbidden. In America, the few RS 200 Evolutions that made it over became ultra-rare collector's items, locked away in private garages or museums. Today, they're holy grails for rally fans, a stark reminder of what happens when engineers chase unlimited performance and find the edge is sharper than anyone expected. These 12 buried machines weren't just cars. They were dreams on wheels, born from engineers who refused to play it safe. They dared to challenge the rules, to chase speed, power, and innovation, only to be silenced by boardrooms, regulations, or the cold realities of their time. But that spirit, it never truly died. It lives on in stories shared, engines rebuilt, and memories of a wilder era when American cars had no fear of being too bold. Which of these hidden legends captured your imagination? Maybe you remember seeing one, or maybe you just wish you had. Share your thoughts, memories, or questions down in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories. And if you enjoyed this journey through America's forgotten automotive treasures, be sure to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you won't miss our next dive into the untold tales of classic cars. There are still so many secrets left on the road, waiting to be discovered.